Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Mixed Martial Arts channel. We are here today to discuss the UFC 311 card. I'm going to break it down for you. We're going to begin with the main event. I'm going to work my way down through the card and I'll make my way to the very bottom where the the fights will become less and less well explained by yours truly. I promise that the top main card and starting into the prelims is going to be good. I've got a lot to say about that stuff. I did watch every fight, so I've got plenty to say about each fight, but as I say in every breakdown video, it will get less and less intelligible as we get closer to the prelims and we start talking about more of people that I've barely even watched. But do not fret, it is still going to be very, very knowledgeable. There's still going to be plenty of stuff to talk about. I'm going to discuss a little bit about every single fight on the card. We're going to start with the main event of Islam Makhachev versus Renato Moicano. So, as we all expected, or should have expected if we didn't, Islam chokes out Moicano in the first round. Now, I was really hoping that we'd get to see a bit more from Moicano. He looked okay for the time that he did spend in there. It was literally 4 minutes and 5 seconds. But I was surprised. I was pleasantly surprised a little bit by the striking at the very beginning. That's what I'll say, the very beginning. But that is that's a very cherry picking kind of thing to point out, right? There's literally minimal moments. It's obviously takes a moment for every single fighter ever to warm up to the fight, to get used to it, to adjust to the person that's in front of them. So you can't really blame Islam for getting clipped by a few Moicano jabs and hooks. You know what I mean? That's totally acceptable as well for Islam. He didn't even look remotely damaged from it. He did slip at one point, and I thought that was a knockdown from Moicano, but upon replays you can see that it was just a slip. Moicano did kind of catch Islam as he slipped, so you could say it's a combination of the two things, but it relatively was a slip for Islam. Now, Islam goes for the takedown with probably 3 minutes left in the round, maybe 2, and he gets it immediately. He gets Moicano down with the double leg beautifully, gets right on top of him, and they spend a little bit of time in this top position with Islam trying to gain dominance over Moicano. Moicano's doing well off his back, you know, that's somewhat of his realm, he's good there, but as it goes on, Moicano is just being a bit less and less intelligently defensive. I believe there was a get-up from that position. Moicano manages to make his way into somewhat of a scramble to get back to his feet, and then Moicano just catches his neck, and Moicano goes to defend it, and it's not fast enough before Islam just drops down to his butt and is looping his legs over the top of Moicano to grab that squeeze and just force Moicano's neck to just be crunched in underneath the forearm, and the Islam's stomach just pushing his head deeper and deeper into that choke, and Moicano tapped. As soon as it happened, I was like, yeah, of course. I don't know why anybody expected any different. Like, not because Moicano's bad, but because Islam's good. He's really good. I don't know why we thought that maybe Moicano had a chance. He's still good, don't get me wrong. Moicano is still very talented. He's still probably one of the top. I'd argue that he probably is top 5 lightweight. I think he's ranked number 10. I believe there's at least 3 people above him he beats. I think he beats Beneil. I think he beats Michael Chandler. Or maybe he doesn't beat Michael Chandler, but he certainly deserves to be ranked above Michael Chandler. That at the bare minimum. And there's a couple of other fights in there, you know, that people he could plausibly beat. You know, I could see a Moicano getting a lucky win over a Gaethje kind of thing. You know what I mean? I could see a Moicano getting a good win over like a Dan Hooker, someone like that. So I do think he still has the ability, and he said that it's very sad because, and I agree that it's very sad. This is the thing that Moicano has been working for, right? For the last couple of years since he lost to RDA, and he's been on this streak at lightweight, the Brad Riddell fight, onto the Drew Dober fight, onto the Jailton Turner fight, onto the Benoit Saint Denis fight. He's just been getting better and better and getting more and more impressive performances, and this was his road to the title shot, you know what I mean? If anything, you would maybe say that it's kind of lucky that he got given this opportunity, because he's 35 years old. He's probably not going to get any better. He's maybe got 12 months. Moicano maybe has another 12 months in him of where he's probably going to continue to either stay where he is or get a little bit better, like he has been doing for the past 2 to 3 years. But certainly, if he was to have to have climbed for a title shot normally, and had to have fought Beneil, and then had to have fought after a Beneil, like a top 5 guy, and then maybe a number 1 contender fight after that, we're talking Moicano's nearly 37 by the time, at least 36, nearly 37 by the time he gets to have a title shot. And at that point, I feel like with the statistic being crazy of 155 and below, no one over the age of 35 has won in a championship fight, it probably would have been even less of a capable Moicano. Now, the argument is obviously that it was a short notice. Moicano didn't have time to prepare. He was preparing for 5 rounds, and I said this in my Fight Companion reaction. It's kind of stupid of us to have been considering that that was the issue. That it's like, oh, well, at least Moicano's been preparing for 5 rounds. That doesn't matter. He wasn't... Why did we think he was going to last 5 rounds? The issue was that he needed to be prepared to be able to take Islam out. Because he was training for someone like a Beneil, who is not going to be a mauler the way that Islam is. Beneil's still a dangerous guy, don't get me wrong, and if he gets you into these compromising positions, you're going to be somewhat fucked. But not to the level, or even remotely close to the level, that Islam will do that to you at. So we should have really considered, if anything, whether Moicano was prepared to do a lot of boxing, which granted he did okay in the start, as well as his submission defense. Because I didn't really have any high hopes at all about his wrestling. I thought maybe his jiu-jitsu could be helpful for him, being on bottom position. Evidently it wasn't. But submission defense is probably the one thing that we should have been like, man, I sure hope that in that Beneil camp, Moicano was drilling the shit out of defending Das chokes and defending rear naked chokes. Like, that's what he's going to be dealing with here. Maybe a Kimura or something like that from Islam. And it wasn't enough, clearly. Any training that he may have done, it wasn't quite enough. So it was sad that Moicano basically said on the mic, I don't know if I'm going to get this opportunity again. I'm getting old. I'm not going to retire, obviously, which I'm glad that he said he's not going to retire. So he's still going to keep fighting. He still thinks he's top level, and I think he's still top level as well. But the elusive title shot opportunity down the path is now gone. He's had that moment spring on him. He's been given the chance, and he failed, unfortunately. But like I said, there's a chance that this was the best chance that Moicano had at getting a title shot. That he may have honestly been in a better position to win this than he would be in 2 years' time when he's older and a little bit more worn out and facing possibly an even better Islam Makhachev if he was still to be champion at the time. So it is what it is. I don't think that Moicano will ever get a title shot again, sadly. I think he's going to have really high-level fights next. But we will have to see what gets announced for him next, who gets announced for him next. Maybe they can make that Paddy Pimblett fight now that Moicano is not really that focused on climbing the rankings, and Paddy will still be focused on climbing the rankings. Moicano's number will look good to Paddy, and perhaps Moicano is just going to look for money fights now, and big fights that are going to get him a lot of fan interaction and money and stuff like that, which isn't really going to be in line with ranked-based fights. He's going to want to fight his Paddy Pimbletts. He's maybe going to want to fight his Dan Hookers or something like that. Even though Dan Hooker's a high-ranked guy, you know what I mean. We're not looking to get give me a Justin Gaethje number 3 matchup, or give me a blah blah. It's more likely going to be Moicano wants money, ironically. And I'm sure he got paid really fucking well for this. I'm sure that he's very happy with that. He probably got paid like absurdly well. So I'm happy for him, and Islam's a monster. If anything, people can be mad all they want about the matchup being somewhat undeserved or whatever, but this looks really good on Islam's resume. Like, to face a short notice guy who is number 10 ranked, very dangerous, and you didn't get to prepare for him, and to just maul him in the first round, some people would say, well, that's what he should do. And then I would respond with saying, well, if that's what he should do, he did it. So why shit on him for doing something that you say he should do? You can either A, be neutral about it, which is a boring stance to have, or you can be happy about it and praise Islam to an extent of being like, well, good job, he fulfilled the quota that we were hoping he would. Like, it's not like he struggled into the second and third round with Moicano and then beat him. No, he fucking mauled Moicano. Like he probably should, when he's number 1 in the world, number 1 pound for pound in the world, facing the number 10 guy in his division who has not fought anybody ranked above him. So, is what it is. Sad to see Moicano. I'm sure he will come back strong against a contender, against maybe they rebook a Dariush fight, or maybe they do the Pimblett fight or something like that. As for Islam, supposedly Dana White has said that Arman will not be getting the next title shot. So that's interesting. Arman might be out for a while. So they're going to book Islam versus Charles. That's what's going to happen. Because tell me right now, why the fuck is Islam going to be out for more than 6 months right now? No reason at all for him to be out any longer than May or June. Like, if he comes back in September, well, he wouldn't. What would happen is it would be October when we go to Abu Dhabi again. If we're just waiting for Abu Dhabi every year, and then Islam fights once in between those fights or something like that, like, what are we doing? That's fine if you're having big long wars, like a Volk 1 or a Poirier fight. But if you maul some guy in the first 4 minutes and you don't take any damage, you barely even got hit, you better be back in 4 months. Okay, you better be back in May. You better be back in June. International Fight Week, maybe in July. That's a bit long, but possibly. I think that they're going to book Islam versus Charles. Maybe they do a Brazil. Islam's fought a lot in his home areas more recently. Granted, America's not his home area, but not having to fight overseas. Like, he fought in Australia, and then he got to fight in Abu Dhabi after that. And then he fought in America, which is somewhat quite easy for him to fight in, you know. America's pretty easy for anyone to fight in. You give the edge somewhat to the American fighter that gets to fight a foreigner coming to America, but most of the foreign fighters are very, very well prepared to be spending lots of time in America, to train in America, to fight in America, to live in America for months. So it's obviously not as good as if he was fighting in Russia or in Abu Dhabi or something like that, which is the preference for him. But it's nowhere near as bad as in Australia or something like that. So perhaps we see a Brazil card this year. And if we do, perhaps they do Charles versus Islam as the main event in Brazil. I kind of doubt it. I'm just putting it out there because it's a possibility. But I do see Charles being next. I think they will do Islam versus Charles. Arman's going to have to get another number one contender fight, I'd say, which is kind of unfortunate. But maybe this makes a lot of fans happy because people were saying that they should rematch Charles and Arman for 5 rounds anyway, because that fight was so close, and a lot of people think that Charles won the fight. It was pretty close. I'm not too sure if I agree with the fact that you think Charles won the fight, but it is what it is. I think that they give Arman... Maybe you do the winner of Gaethje versus Hooker fights Arman when they come back. That's a pretty good idea, if you ask me. Holloway versus Arman's a very good high-level fight. Like, that's just like there's so much high-level contendership going on there, but styles make fights, and I don't know if that's a good fight. I feel like Arman just wrestle fucks Max Holloway, and that's probably not something that Holloway's interested in. And I don't know if Arman's interested in a BMF fight, which is probably what Holloway's next fight has to be. So I think that they've just announced the winner, not the winner. They've just announced the fights for UFC 314, and it's Ferreira versus Ankalaev and Gaethje versus Hooker. So if the winner, I think the winner of Gaethje versus Hooker could face Arman later on this year when he comes back from his injury, because that's only in 2 months, I think. 314, it's in April. I think it's in April. It's like 3 months away, maybe. So maybe Arman comes back in 9-10 months time, which is kind of sad because that's a long time for him to be out. But if he's got a back injury, one, that's maybe will to keep him out for a long time, and 2, he probably won't have any issues staying out for a long time if it means he gets to have a big level fight. Whereas if you offer him like an Arman versus fucking, I don't know, something dumb, an Arman versus Gamrot or an Arman versus Chandler or something, like there's not really anything for Arman to gain in those fights. I think Gaethje versus Hooker's winner is the only real thing that Arman would have anything to gain from fighting. Because aside from fighting Islam, there is really nothing for Arman to prove. He beat the fuck out of Arman, out of Beneil, and then had a really, really razor close but very, very talent displaying fight with Charles. And he's done the best against Islam out of anyone. And Islam's just beating people more and more aggressively every time now. Like, now he's finishing fights. We had the Volk fight, which was like, ooh, okay, maybe he's human. And then he beats the fuck out of Volk, and we're like, okay, it was short notice. And then he has the Poirier fight, and we're like, see, Poirier makes him look a bit human, but he does still choke Poirier out at the end. And now he's just gone and mollywopped Moicano to show, like, hey, the rankings fucking matter. Like, I'll fight anyone you want me to, but just remember that rankings matter, and if you put low guys in here with me, they're gonna get fucking destroyed. So, we shall see. But like I said, Islam versus Charles 2 is probably next, and I reckon they booked that in like June. Moicano, yeah, you probably do Moicano versus Paddy Pimblett next. Oops, sorry guys. And I think Arman gets the winner of Gaethje versus Hooker. So yeah, that's the main event. Okay, moving on to the co-main event. wow, Merab versus Umar was fucking entertaining. Let me just say that, okay? Now, I had a lot of words of complaint in my fight companion when this fight ended, okay? I scored it, rounds 1 and 2 to Umar. Rounds 3 and 4, went to Merab. The 5th round, in my eyes, was what it all came down to. I was very disappointed when Merab just kind of took the reins and started to walk away with it. But I wasn't disappointed because I was like, fuck this fight. I was disappointed because I was like, damn, Umar, you were so close. What I really had to say after this fight, though, was, hey, Merab, where the fuck has this been? This was an incredible fight. Probably the best fight of Merab's career. Arguably, thanks to Umar, okay? Not entirely just blaming Merab here for no reason, okay? That's not what I'm saying, but Umar brought out the best of Merab, and Merab refuses to let that side of him show in his other fights, okay? There was like 2 moments of like taunting O'Malley in the O'Malley fight, and that's like the best things that we got out of that fight. Where the fuck was the scrappy scrambles? Where the fuck was you winging overhands in not just the O'Malley fight, because that's a crazy counter striker and you can't blame him for really being that slow in the fight. As much as he fought like a pussy, I'm not going to act like he should have done something else, because arguably there wasn't really any other path to victory for Merab besides being a boring cunt. So you can shit on him for that performance, but you can't really act like he was meant to have some clear other option that he could have chased down. But the Cejudo fight was entertaining, but still at moments somewhat annoying. But you are wrestling an Olympic wrestler, so it's entirely Cejudo's fault, to be honest, that's going so badly. The Jan fight and the Aldo fight, that you fucking destroyed your credibility with those 2 fights. Like, fucking demolished it. All fans hated you after that. And I said, I don't think I can ever forgive Merab for what he's done in his career so far. What his resume looks like compared to what his fights look like. You're fighting some of the most talented guys in the fucking division. You've literally got like a Hall of Fame resume. But your fights are abysmal, lacking talent and forcing stalling, okay? We wouldn't have had anything to hate Merab on, even though his earlier fights were arguably similar. They were all decisions, first of all, and it's all grappling based and stuff like that. If you just took the fight to either Aldo or Jan, whether that's striking with them or getting them down on the mat the way that you got a fucking Nurmagomedov down on the mat, no one would have been that mad. But the issue is that you couldn't take fucking Aldo down. You took Piotr Jan down at times. But, my god, I essentially, my take on this was, I will happily, 1, give Merab a shit ton of props for this fight, because it was incredibly well performed. 2, I will happily look at his next fight with a little bit of excitement and hope that he will duplicate this performance, or at least this level of activity within the fight. But I can never forgive him for not doing that earlier. And it's clear that he has this capability. Merab hasn't just gotten suddenly better in the last 2 years, okay? He's not gotten... He fights almost the exact same, and he's 34 years old. You don't get that much better between 32, 33, and 34. Like, you're kind of the same. A little bit. You get a bit of improvement, but not to the drastic levels that the performances between the Aldo performance and the Umar performance gives. That is... They are fucking polar opposites. One of them is one of the most entertaining fights that the bantamweight division has ever had, and the other one is possibly one of the most disgraceful performances the bantamweight division has ever had. At least, I can't speak of all time, but in the past few years, for sure, bro. I don't know if anyone's hated on someone as much as they hated on Merab after he fucking failed 50 takedowns against Aldo. Even Mario Batista didn't get as much hate as Merab got after he fought Aldo, okay? So I don't think I can ever forgive Merab for his clear lack of respect for the sport previously in his earlier fights. because he refused to employ these techniques and these skill sets that he clearly fucking has. He almost knocked Umar out in the last round. He hit him with a clean ass 1-2. Now, I'm not telling you to go in there and do that to O'Malley. I'm telling you that you had those tools available, and when you fought people of the same style, same size as you, that don't have O'Malley's style, that even if they're primarily strikers, have the same height and reach as you, they're not some crazy counter striker that's going to stand on the outside and force you to enter like O'Malley will. You didn't employ these techniques and tactics when you were fighting these high-level guys. You were given the platform to... You finished Marlon Moraes, get your first ever UFC finish, and you have the ability to then carry that momentum into a Jose Aldo beating 5-round performance. Was it 5 rounds? I could be wrong, actually. I don't know if it was 5 rounds. Let's see. Aldo versus Merab Tapology. I think that actually might have been a 3-round fight. Oh, no, because it was a main event. I actually am quite positive that it was a 5-round fight now that I'm mentioning it. It was a 3-round. It was 3 rounds. It was 3 rounds, yeah, okay. You clearly had the ability to do this all along, and you chose not to. You chose not to do it because you saw an easier path to victory. And I can't act like that's not a normal fighter mindset to have. But I can act like you as a man should be able to see that this is a sport, there is a lot of respect involved, and there is a large emphasis on performance, not just result, okay? Result will get you places. Performance will get you fans. You've gotten to a title fight, you're making a bunch of money, sure, now, because you're a champion, you get pay-per-view points and everything. But you've only just managed to get your fans on your side. The fans on your side, sorry. For some reason, he had fans before this fight. Don't know why. That O'Malley fight should have lost him fucking half his fan base. Everyone should have been hating on him forever for that fight. O'Malley obviously didn't do great either. But it was, in large part, Merab doing nothing, dancing around the outside, taunting when he's not even engaging with O'Malley. All I want, Merab, is for you to continue to fight like this. And I will, as I've said, remain neutral or be happy with the performances. But I will never respect your career, and I will never respect your performances because you took the easy route to get them purposely when the fight was there. You've been able to fight, you've known how to fight, you've had the fight inside you. But when you get put in the fight with another guy who is known for his ability to fight, i.e. Piotr Yan, i.e. Jose fucking Aldo, you didn't want to fight. You wanted to lay on the floor. You wanted to crotch sniff. You wanted the back of your neck to smell like Aldo's nuts when you were finished with that fight. So, I can never respect Merab's career pre-O'Malley fight. And even somewhat of the O'Malley fight. Henry Cejudo is like the one thing where thankfully he did well. But then he, again, like I said, coming off the Marlon Moraes performance, had the chance of a lifetime to put on a performance against Jose fucking Aldo. Didn't do it. Comes off the back of a Henry Cejudo masterclass where he fucking picked up a gold medal Olympic wrestler and threw him across the octagon. Picked him up over his shoulder and walked him around, bro. You come off the back of that and once again give us the shittest fucking performance ever. So, Merab, I want to like you. I can't like his personality because he's a fucking crybaby, and he has a huge lack of respect for the other fighters. Like, people act like Umar was fucking being rude to Merab, as if Merab wasn't being the most fucking unimaginably just careless piece of shit with all interactions about Umar. Just constantly calling him unhumble and saying that he is fucking talking shit about me and that he has no respect for me. If you're selling the fight, sure. But it's really, really disrespectful of you to try and claim that you're the one to teach people about a lack of disrespect when you constantly just talk over people in press conferences, misconstrue people's words, even if it's a language barrier thing. Umar doesn't speak great English either. And when he gets a chance to speak in interviews outside of fucking face-to-faces and press conferences with Merab, and he gets to eloquate his opinions properly, he's there saying, I respect the guy, and he's a great fighter, he's got a great resume, but I think I'm better. It doesn't matter if he lost tonight and he is technically not better. It was always an I think I'm better and I will beat you. And anytime Umar made it a thing of like, I don't care who I'm fighting. It's not about you, Merab. It's about the belt. Merab constantly just goes, hey, you have to show respect. You have to you have to be humble. Bro, it's like, you can't make people dislike you more than to try and take the somewhat respectful trash talk of another fighter and try and misconstrue it and present it to the audience as like bullying. He literally says, don't let anybody bully you, okay? O'Malley bullied you. Sure, O'Malley was a fucking cunt to you. I don't blame him. That's totally fine. You say whatever you want about O'Malley. Umar was constantly being forced into these interactions with you that you just wouldn't ever let him speak. You wouldn't ever let him eloquate himself. And then you just sit there and yap for minutes. And he lets you. Umar sits there and lets you yap for minutes. Hey guys, this guy I come from, I moved to America to make my life better, Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up, Merab. You won. Congratulations. You put on the most entertaining performance of your career and one of the best performances in bantamweight title fights in recent history. 100%. No denying that. Just, you've got so much to work on. You've got so much to fix. And it's not to do with your fight style. Because you've clearly got the ability to fight like that. Just fucking do it. Just do it. If you rematch O'Malley, I don't care about the fact that O'Malley's a dangerous counter-striker. Because you squandered your chance to have the moral high ground by fighting O'Malley the way you did. You didn't even fight him cautiously and I don't want to get engaged, I don't want to get counted and whatever. If you had a fought like that, then it would have been like, okay, in that second fight, in the first one he got clipped a couple times by O'Malley, so it's fair enough that he made the second fight boring. I can't blame him, he knew a path to victory. You did that in the first fight. So now, the second fight is your chance to redeem yourself, and if you don't, then you have no respect for the sport and performances. And that's clear. Okay? Great fight. I haven't even really spoken about the fight. It was very, very good back and forth between the two of them. Like I said, Umar won the first 2 rounds. He was doing good with the takedown defense and the striking. First round and second round were both somewhat close, but I did edge it to Umar. And then in the third and fourth, Merab starts to get some energy, walk away with it a little bit. And then the 5th round, you could see, end of the 4th round, honestly, actually, you could see that Umar was very tired. He was very exhausted, and he obviously just had so much of the energy zapped out of him in that 3rd round, and then during that 4th round as well. And in the 5th round, Umar comes out and does better. He's much better on the takedown defense, has moments of striking, and then there's like 2 minutes left or a minute and a half left in the round, and I believe it was like there. And I said, whoever gets big moments at the end of this round could win it, because it's been a bit of a nothing round. It's been a lot of just Umar defending Merab's takedowns and Merab failing the takedown. Not a lot of competitively precise striking or anything like that. And then Merab lands a massive 1-2 and almost knocks Umar out. And that's when I was like, okay, he won. Just then, there's a minute left in the fight, but Merab just won. That was all he needed. And then for the last minute, he also managed to get on top of Umar. And just even more ground and pound a little bit, and that just adds up in that 5th round. Becomes obviously Merab's. But Umar did very well. I was very, very pleasantly surprised. And to see him do that well against the cardio of Merab, considering how fucking high-paced the fight was, is impressive. Because, for example, O'Malley didn't have that pace with Merab. Merab wasn't pace fighting like he normally does against O'Malley. So we didn't really get to see the forced into the fire moment. But we did with Umar. And he kind of reveled in it. I don't know if that's the right word. He kind of reveled in the heat and did well. He didn't do well enough to win a round or 2 in those last 2 rounds. But he came back better than he was doing once he got really tired. And you could see it start to wear. You could see Umar starting to get worn on. I think Umar will do very well in this division. I feel like if they don't do O'Malley versus Merab rematch now, which I think they will, they could certainly do O'Malley versus Umar now. That would be a really big fight, very fun. Otherwise, I don't actually know who I would say Umar should fight next, because he deserves a fucking high-level fight, bro. People took all the shit they want and say, like, oh, he's just getting this because of his name. Who the fuck else has performed like that against Merab? No one. No one's gotten arguably 2 rounds up on Merab at the start of a fight, especially. Imagine if Aldo did that. It was only a 3-round fight. He would have won based on doing that in the first 2 rounds. Granted, maybe Merab would have fought differently if it was obviously if it's a 3-round fight. Merab will fight differently and somewhat more aggressively because he's not got to make himself last. Let's see, Umar. Oh, Petr Yan. I think you do Umar versus Yan. That's a fucking sick fight. Umar versus Petr Yan. Maybe Davis and Figueiredo, but I don't think Davis and Figueiredo deserves to fight. No, he doesn't deserve to fight up the rankings above Petr Yan after he just lost to Yan. Look, it was a great fight. It got fight of the night, and I attributed it to that as well. I said that was the thing. That was the fight that I think deserves fight of the night. Like I said though, so Umar did very well. Very happy with his performance. He lost, but I saw a lot of potential. Umar's also very young right now. I think he's 29 years old. Let's double check that right now. He's 29 years old. So he's got plenty of time to get better. A lot of potential there, and he's got a long future in this division, I think. Merab, you can be great. Just please, for the love of fuck, do it. Okay? Just please do it. Okay, moving on to the feature fight. So, Jiri Prochazka knocks out Jamahal Hill in the 3rd round. Wow, this fight was fucking fun, man. Okay? I was worried at moments for Jiri. 100%. That defense was... It was certainly a Jiri defense. He got clipped with a lot of stuff from Jamahal. He didn't really get rocked. That's something that I'm very shocked about. We didn't really see any super compromising moments for Jiri. He got hit many times by Jamahal. That's 100% for sure. But none of it was as clean as what Jiri was landing. Even prior to the finishing sequence. Jiri was landing the better shots, for sure. I can't remember whether I had it 1-1 or 2-0 Jiri, but Jamahal did better in the 2nd round, I believe. Let me double check those statistics right now. Yes, Jamahal was ahead on strikes in the 2nd round. So round 1 went to Jiri, round 2 went to Jamahal. That's what I thought. And then in that 3rd round, it was 1-1. But it didn't matter because Jamahal got clipped with like the fucking textbook 1-2 from Jiri, dude. Beautifully landed, left hand on the dome, right hand straight across the jaw. Just Jamahal drops like a sack of fucking potatoes, and as I predicted perfectly, it was going to be either a 2nd or 3rd round finish by Jiri, where he hurts Jamahal, doesn't knock him out, chases him to the ground, and pretty much the same as Rakic, gets like a ground and pound finish where the referee just goes, I've seen enough. And it was like uncannily the same as the Rakic finish, even to the point where Jiri dropped him, Jamahal, and then Jamahal gets back up to his feet. And the exact same way that Rakic was like really wobbly on his feet with Jiri, and Jiri didn't actually knock him down for the final part of the... Even though he ended the fight on the mat, Jiri didn't knock him down to the mat. He kind of just pushes or pulls him down to the mat and uses his own body weight while his equilibrium is all fucked up to make him fall over. And that's what he did to Jamahal as well. And Jamahal kind of flops down to the mat again, even though he actually managed to get back up to his feet. That was pretty much the crucial failure there for Jamahal, was as soon as you fell back over on your own, Jiri was just on him and ready to fucking end it right then and there. So, first of all, I want to say, great performance from Jiri. Very happy to see him still as fucking good as we think he has the capability of being. He didn't get hurt in this fight as much as he got hurt in the Rakic fight, that's for sure. And he is still young, and Jiri is someone that probably a lot of people were questioning the longevity of. But I don't know if that's a fair question to be asking, because the guy is 32. He's 32, and he's had 6 UFC fights, 7 UFC fights, and how many of them were title fights? Glover, Alex, Alex. It's 3. So he's had like half of his UFC fights have been title fights. Yeah, bruh. That's pretty fucking ridiculous of a statistic. And to be only 32 years old, and now he's still at the top. He's going to be here for a while, I think, unless... Because he called out Ferreira. I knew he was going to do it. Like, what the fuck else is he supposed to do? Like, who else is he supposed to call out? He just beat Jamahal, the only guy that's beaten everyone else in the division. And Jamahal has only lost to Ferreira, as Jiri has only lost to Ferreira. It'll be the 3rd fight, though, man. I mean, don't get me wrong. This would be the most fucking mental storyline of all time if Jiri loses to Ferreira, goes out and beats Rakic, loses to Ferreira again, then goes out and beats Jamahal Hill, and then beats Ferreira in the 3rd fight. That's mental. At this point, we are actually beating the storyline of Izzy versus Ferreira. And we've actually got Ferreira involved in an even better trilogy, multiple fight storyline thing. Just saying, it's there. The possibility is there. Now, do I think Jiri wins? No. No, I don't. Would I like him to win? As much as I love Ferreira, I'm literally wearing a Payton shirt. Yeah, I'd fucking love to see Jiri beat Ferreira. To be honest, because especially if Ferreira beats, whatever the fuck his name is, Magomed, Ankalaev. If he beats Ankalaev and then goes on to lose to Jiri, honestly, great legacy at that weight class. Maybe him and Jiri would fight again, which would be ridiculous at this point, but possible. But I think if he beats Ankalaev, it doesn't matter who Ferreira loses to. If he beats Ankalaev, he can have whatever fun fights he wants forever because he's fought the one guy that everyone's been like, just hurry the fuck up and fight this number 1 contender guy for the love of God. So if he beats him, I think you do whatever you want. You can go fight Jiri and lose to Jiri. You can go up and fight Tom Aspinall and lose to Tom Aspinall. You can fucking rematch Jamahal Hill and even lose to Jamahal Hill as long as you don't lose multiple fights back to back or something like that. I think Ferreira, his career can sustain one more loss. He's got the easy loss at middleweight. So I think if he beats Ankalaev, he has the capability to sustain one loss in light heavyweight and it not take away from the fact that he's arguably one of the best light heavyweights, but obviously bar John Jones. So we shall see what happens next. I'm guessing that they will probably book that. If Ferreira beats Ankalaev, I don't see them telling Jiri no, fight someone else. Like, who else is Jiri going to fight? And I don't see Ferreira going up to heavyweight like he wants to until Aspinall versus Jones happens, or until Aspinall is declared champion and then fights someone else in the heavyweight division before he is to fight someone from outside the heavyweight division, like he would have to fight Garn or Volkov. So, I don't know. I think that's the fight they're going to make next. It puts the future of these divisions in questionable positions, but that's what the UFC is. It's a bunch of fucking questions about constantly thinking, how the fuck are we going to move forward from here? Jamahal Hill, sorry bro, that's really sad. He's going to get a lot of hate on Instagram and shit. He doesn't deserve it. He fought quite well against Jiri tonight. Honestly, he did very well. He clipped Jiri a couple of times. Just wasn't quite enough. And the hate's very unwarranted. Okay, I get that, like, you like to hate someone, and when Jamahal is like being a coper and like actively like talking about a loss over and over again and stuff like that, sure. And it's Pereira's fans are fucking ridiculously obsessed with him. I say that as a guy that's literally got a cardboard cutout of him and I'm wearing a fucking t-shirt. I am saying that Pereira fans need to chill the fuck out. Just fucking chill out. Stop texting Jamahal Hill's 9-year-old daughter about her father's loss. Like, that's not cool at all. But I think Jamahal Hill versus Khalil Roundtree needs to be rebooked. What the fuck else? Ready? Let's have a look at light heavyweight. What else are you going to give Jamahal Hill? You're going to make Jamahal Hill fight like Krylov or something? He's number 3. Blachowicz is fighting Carlos Ulberg. Rakic just lost to Jiri. Ankalaev, maybe you do Jamahal Hill versus Ankalaev if Ankalaev loses to Ferreira. That's a pretty good fight, I guess, maybe. But you need to give Roundtree a top fight. Krylov and Ozdemir, obviously, also kind of deserving of a pretty decent matchup right now. Ozdemir just lost, true, to Olberg, which I don't think he did. I think Ozdemir beat Olberg, but that's fine. I think you do Khalil Roundtree versus Jamahal Hill next. That fight was already booked. It was meant to happen. And then Khalil went out and made himself an even better contender who is even more deserving of a top 5 matchup. And Jamahal Hill is now even less deserving of a high-level matchup, coming off of 2 losses in a row. So I think you do Khalil versus Jamahal Hill. And that's the fight to make in that division, 100%. Yeah, man. Jiri, please, just if you're going to fight Ferreira for the 3rd time, maybe make it to a decision with him or something. I don't know. That's not going to happen, knowing the 2 of them at all. But I'm scared for him, but I'm happy for him. So congrats to Jiri. Very happy that he's still doing as well as as we want him to in his career, and I think he has a couple good years left in him. So that is all for the top 3 fights of the card. That's the things that I had a lot to yap about. Now we're still going to chat about everything, but we're going to get through the rest of them a lot quicker than we got through those 3. So first of all, Jailton Almeida versus Sergei Spivak. Spivak, you threw away a possible win. There was literally a moment at the end of that fight, at the end of that round, technically the end of the fight, I guess, where Almeida, first of all, Almeida was in trouble with Spivak multiple times during the round, and that was very interesting to see. And as I was saying, as I was watching it, Spivak is the guy that beat Tybura, and he's a bit less of like a fat guy. He still is a fat, short heavyweight, but it's not quite as bad as some others like a Taito Ivasa or a Marcin Tybura or something like that, you know? But Jailton Almeida, if you're slightly short and fat, he just wants to eat you up for lunch and fucking take you home with him and make you his bitch. So he did it again, unfortunately, tonight, but barely. First of all, there's 7 seconds left in the round. The referee stopped it at a great time. I'm not saying it was a bad stoppage, but right before the round ends, just Spivak's just covering up there, and Almeida's just pummeling the side of his head and the back of his head as well. There was a moment. So Almeida hurts Spivak bad. And Spivak drops, and there's a bit of a blah 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 sequence between the 2 of them, and it gets to a point where Spivak actually gets out, and he's like holding onto like Almeida's ankle or something like that, and he's down on his hands and knees like this basically, and Almeida actually, stupidly enough, gives Spivak like a good 1.5 to 2 seconds. I'm talking 1, 2, bam, like a good couple seconds that Spivak had to stand up, that he had to sit up against the cage. Anything. He got given a fucking life-saving opportunity of a couple seconds where Almeida was no longer on top of him, he was no longer trying to get on top of him, and he was no longer hitting him. But Spivak was just sat there. And I feel like that's because Spivak didn't know what Almeida was doing. He couldn't see where Almeida's next step was, or what he was like transitioning into. So Spivak probably thought that if he lets go of his head, he's going to get hit immediately. He probably didn't know that he had the chance to let go of his head, look up, and sit up against the cage or something. Just do something. But he didn't. And Almeida got the finish over him. So he choked it. Spivak could have got it done. Almeida gets another fat guy mauling. Please just give him another shitty fat guy, or not fat guy, but like another shitty contender. Don't give me fucking Volkov versus Almeida. I swear to fuck. If you try and book me Volkov versus Almeida next, because Volkov is technically coming off a loss, I will lose my shit. Because Almeida's ranked number 6, he just defended against number 7, or defended his position against number 7. He's already lost to number 5, Curtis Blades. Pavlovich is fighting Rosenstruck, I think. I think it's Rosenstruck versus Pavlovich. Maybe you do Almeida versus the winner of Rosenstruck Pavlovich, but now I'm saying it, I bet they're going to try and book Volkov versus Almeida, and it's going to be fucking infuriating. But maybe he won't beat him, because Volkov is not a big fat guy that can just be laid on the same way, and Almeida's not that tall. I just hope they don't do that fight next, Almeida versus Volkov. Anyway, we move on to the next fight, which is Kevin Holland versus Reinier. All my homies love to see Kevin Holland lose a fucking fight. I used to love Holland. I used to be on that Holland hype, bro. Fuck that and everything about it from now on. You want to sit there and talk shit to Rampage Jackson on his podcast when he's trying to be kind to you and respectful. You're just going to sit there and chat shit and then go out and... It's not just that, by the way. Let me preface this with, Kevin's had a rough year of like, where the fuck have any of your skills gone, first of all? Second of all, What on fucking God's green earth gave you the idea that you're a middleweight? Because you're not. You're a middleweight height and you have middleweight reach. But you are not middleweight size at all. You are welterweight size. You are big in that division because of your height. But you are skinny and frail and you will get out-grappled by the majority of the middleweight division. Especially because it is now getting filled with grapplers. Like Reinier, like an Anthony Hernandez would fucking destroy Kevin Holland. A Dricus du Plessis would fucking destroy Kevin Holland. I think Brendan Allen would fucking destroy Kevin Holland. You know, Delidze destroyed Kevin Holland, even though it was an injury. Still, you get the point. There's no place for you. Marvin Vettori will destroy Kevin Holland. There's no place for you in this division. So you don't belong in this division. You're losing all your fights. The fans are sick of it. They're losing all their parlay money, which I don't give a shit about because I'm not betting on him, but other people are, and that's a big thing. Everyone's like, Kevin Holland stays fucking up parlays. On top of that, you've gone out and just disrespected one of the greats of the sport for no fucking reason, with no grounds whatsoever, as well as just being unentertaining in all your recent interviews. You got nothing to say. The whole yapper in the center of the octagon thing is gone now. You don't talk in your fights anymore, and if you do, we can't hear you because you're fighting on pay-per-views and not in the Apex. So that's, whether that's his fault or not, it's still a fact that a big part of the intrigue of Kevin Holland is missing from his fights now. Me and all my homies love to see Kevin Holland lose a fight. At this point, I don't want Holland in the UFC anymore. I don't hate him, okay? I don't hate him because he's had some very fun fights, very fun knockouts. But, I mean, the dude acted like JDM robbed him in that fight, which is fucking bizarre. And then he goes out and loses to, who was it? Our MVP in the striking match, because you're just not that good at striking. You're just not. And people, maybe you think like, why would he stay at welterweight when he's clearly losing to all the welterweight guys? You're getting outboxed by welterweights in striking matches that you're making it to decisions in. At welterweight, you're just getting fucking laid on and fucking submitted like a bitch because you're not built for this division. Reinier, welcome to the UFC. Obviously, I know he's already had a UFC fight. He fought GM3, but now he's actually fighting top level. I don't even know if I can call Kevin Holland top level anymore, but he's fighting top level guys now, and he submitted him in fucking easily in a minute. In fact, Kevin Holland tapped like very, very fucking abysmally to this. It was not that crazy of a submission for Reinier to have him in, but this is what I saw coming. I saw that Kevin Holland would not be able to grapple. Reinier was going to be way bigger than him. Kevin would be stuck on his back the entire time trying to throw up submissions. It wouldn't work, and then Reinier would get him in a submission, and he did. That's exactly what happened. Kevin Holland, fuck off. Reinier, you probably get a ranked fight next. So, bravo, good job. The fraud check of all fraud checks, man. I'm not even going to dwell on this one for long because it's just disappointing and there's not much to say about it. Payton Talbott. You had the world in your hands. People were calling you what O'Malley was meant to be. Do you understand how mental that is? People were saying this is what O'Malley should have been doing because you were knocking guys out early in the round like Cameron Soman, and then you knocked out Giannis Gamori in like 20 seconds, okay? You had beautiful striking matches earlier, previously before that. Your Contender Series performance was awesome. This is a big bump in the road. Really big bump in the road, okay? I'm going to need to see a big comeback fight from you, my friend, because Raoni Barcelos is old and a can. He has lost to lesser strikers than yourself. He was knocked out by Umar Nurmagomedov, who is powerful, sure, and a good striker, sure, but you were intended to be a lot better than him in the eyes of the fans, okay? Barcelos lost to Kyler Phillips as well, okay? Kyler Phillips can beat that guy, and you can't. We just saw Kyler Phillips get fraud checked badly by whoever the fuck it was he just fought. Wasn't it Rob Font? I believe it was Rob Font. Yep. Dude, and you can't beat that guy. That is not looking good. If you cannot beat the guy who is lost to lesser strikers than you were perceived to be, okay? Hopefully, maybe it's an injury, okay? Maybe it's just a lack of game plan. Didn't look like it, though. Looked like you just cannot grapple. That's what it seems like. Payton Talbott's grappling just is not there. He didn't get submitted. Like, I'll give him that. He didn't get submitted. But you can't be getting held down for like more than 5 minutes of control time by Raoni Barcelos, dude. You just can't. Luckily, you escaped a lot of your submission attempts. You almost got finished like 3 times, though. I think one of them was even with a ground and pound attempt from Raoni Barcelos. Had him flattened out badly on his stomach, and then the round ended while he was in that bad position, I think. Yeah, that's all I have to say about Payton Talbott, man. You got to... everyone in the comment sections on Instagram is saying, send Dagestan 3 years and forget. 100%. Go fucking wrestle, bro. Not jiu-jitsu. Go wrestle, because you need better takedown defense, you need better ability to get to top position, and you need better ability to scramble out of bottom position, okay? Because all 3 of those areas you struggled in tonight, and Raoni Barcelos is good at those positions, but he's not world-class level. So if you can't survive that stuff with Raoni Barcelos, I don't know how the fuck you think you're going to survive Umar or Merab, who are the 2 current best guys in your division. I think Piotr Yan out-grapples Payton Talbott like that, same way, you know what I mean? I'm not saying Jan's a bad grappler, I'm saying he's a mid-grappler. It's not what he's known for, but he's good at it. I just don't think that you're going to succeed in this division if that's the way that you're going to be fighting and that's the skill set you're going to bring. So please go back to the drawing board, improve. And I'm not just going to jump off the Talbott hype train, because he's still a very elusive striker. He's still very powerful. He's got a lot of pop. And he even did well in the 3rd round, I'll say that. The 3rd round of this fight was entertaining. Towards the end of the round, he got, again, controlled by Barcelos. But when it was on the feet, he was doing well. He was making it fun, making it entertaining, having good moments. But it wasn't enough. And it was too little too late, okay? So please improve and come back, and maybe you can shut up the fans and be like, hey, see, that weren't no fraud check. I'm still that guy. Maybe. But you got a lot of work to do. So good luck, Payton Talbott. Up next, so we had Zachary Reese versus Azamat Bekoev. Now, Azamat Bekoev fucking put on a show for his UFC debut. Let me tell you that for free. Zachary Reese is really just a bit of an enigma right now. Hey, dude gets slam KO'd by Cody Brundage, I believe. And then comes in, gets a 20-second knockout. I don't remember who it was over, but he knocked out some guy in like 17 seconds or 20 seconds or something like that. It was ridiculously good. And then in his next fight, goes to a decision with, I believe it was Jose Medina. And then now he just lost to a debutant, a guy that just got to the UFC now. It was a very talented guy, don't get me wrong. Azamat Bekoev has surprised a lot of people, and I think he's put on a bit of a performance that's going to give him a pop of an entrance into the UFC. First round KO with hammer fists. Maybe it wasn't hammer fist, but it was ground and pound from full guard. So I imagine that's the best option is hammer fists. He could have been doing this, but I'm pretty sure it was hammer fists. And the ref steps in right as Zachary Reese basically goes to sleep, which was kind of mental because it's hard as fuck to generate power from that position that they were in. But Azamat Bekoev did it. I was looking at this guy's record coming into this fight thinking, I kind of want to be high on this dude. I want to feel like he's going to have a good UFC debut. It's just really difficult sometimes to take people's records at face value based on who they have fought and early in their career and who they've fought recently if they haven't fought in the UFC. If this is your UFC debut, it's just really hard to give a lot of respect to what your record might say. Because we see guys come into the UFC 5-2 and then go on ridiculous runs. We've seen guys come into the UFC 16-0 and lose immediately. So it's really, really fucking hit and miss when it comes to using previous regional fights and organizations and that as your research to see how the guy's going to do. Especially when one guy is a debutant and the other guy has like 3 UFC fights and we've seen him get KO'd and KOs. Like there's a lot to go off with Zachary Reese there, not a lot to go off with Azamat Bekoev. But dude comes in and gets a brutal fucking first round knockout. I think he'll get himself a nice middle of the road unranked name that maybe will be good. Maybe he gets given like, let me not say something dumb here. They could give him like a Michel Pereira. I don't think Michel Pereira is ranked anymore, right? So let's double check that so I'm not fucking talking out of my ass before I go ahead and say this one. Michel Pereira is still ranked at number 15, so maybe not. But something like that. Just some kind of fun fighter that you can put him against that's going to give him a bit of a scrappy, an opportunity to be scrappy and show off his power that he clearly has. The dude looked tanky and strong for the division. He was a defending champion at LFA, so it's not like he hadn't fought any competition before this. I just didn't know how much to trust LFA fights where he had begun to get decision wins versus his previous record was a lot of knockouts. Gets into the LFA, starts getting a lot of decisions, going up against the guy who got a 20-second knockout and just one fight ago. Gave me a bit of reason to think that maybe he's not going to perform the way that his early record would give you the preconceived notions that he could perform like. But he surprised everyone, I think. Zachary, Reese, unfortunate for you, my friend. Don't know what you're going to do next. You're probably just going to be fighting a lot of unranked middleweights. You know what? Maybe like an Azamat Bekoev versus Joe Pyfer or something like that's really fun. I think Joe Pyfer's fighting Gastelum right now. So not saying that ranking-wise it makes sense, but in terms of styles and matchups, that could be a very fun fight to put together. So that could be fun. Welcome to the UFC, Azamat Bekoev. And fucking great performance. Bogdan Guskov. I'm not impressed by your performance. I did not enjoy what I saw. Okay? Bogdan Guskov gets the win. Second round submission. But fuck me, man. Billy Elekana, first of all, has a chin on him. Second of all, has power considering he was upper weight class today. And he's coming in to fight Bogdan Guskov on short notice. Bogdan is a ranked UFC fighter in the light heavyweight division, 20 pounds heavier than where Billy Elekana is used to fighting at, and I don't know if he's ever fought in this division before. So I really thought that Bogdan would probably get him out of there quickly if Billy Elekana didn't come in and have some kind of shock performance. Now, Billy did well, showed good striking ability, and definitely kept up with Bogdan to a degree. Let's look at the striking numbers. So it's 60-30, but I bet if I look at that round by round, it's going to tell a little bit of a different story. I don't have time to do it though. I am more so wanting to talk about the finishing sequence. Billy Elekana is genuinely up against the cage. You can hear me. Up against the cage like this. Knees up to his chest. Hand on his head like this. Sitting on the cage like that. Because he can't get up. And he's like, yeah, come on. Come on, Bogdan. And just sitting like this. Like, you should not let a guy sit like that for more than 10 seconds without putting him out fucking cold. His head's against the cage. You've got a backing board to bounce his head off of, and you're not doing it. And his guard's like this. Just like, either bop him in the temple, or slam that shit down the fucking pipe, okay? Bogdan couldn't fucking do that. He struggled to do that a lot. So, I am disappointed in that, not only. And then secondly, the submission... Oh god, my fucking carpet. Come on, chair. The submission itself, sorry guys. The submission itself was also abysmal. Barely even had it in, and Billy Elekana just like lazily tapped it because he's clearly just done for. But it took Bogdan way too long to get this finish, man. I was kind of high on Bogdan Guskov a little bit ago. Well, I say a little bit ago before this fight. Johnny Walker probably would have been a great test for him because I don't know if he would have done very well against Johnny Walker. Actually, now that we're saying it, I think Johnny Walker probably beats Bogdan Guskov after that performance. Because he was fighting a middleweight when Johnny Walker is arguably a heavyweight and fighting in the light heavyweight division. I am worried to see Bogdan Guskov's next fight. He's ranked right now. He's in a division full of heavy hitters, and he clearly is struggling to be as heavy of a hitter as he needs to be at the moment. Now, that's not to say that he has no power or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying Billy Elekana was a guy down a weight class on short notice, upper weight class actually, on short notice. This is where you capitalize and get those big moments, and he didn't. So, disappointed. He got the win, but I am worried for his next fight. Grant Dawson versus Diego Ferreira. This one was pretty fun too. Bit of a Grant Dawson-y moments. Bit of a Grant Dawson-y filled fight, like filled with Grant Dawson moments of sitting in full guard, lots of hammer fisting, lots of just, elbows as well. Granted, like it's not like then there's no attempt to engage, but Grant Dawson doesn't really have much of an issue with being in a full guard position, just sitting there hammer fisting your face and stuff like that. He's not necessarily that upset with not chasing a finish, and that's an issue. It's a big issue that he's going to face a lot in his career. He did well in his last fight. I think it was against Rafa Garcia. I could be wrong if that's... I apologize if that's the wrong name. And he split the guy open badly, cut him open real bad with elbows in ground and pound from, I believe, full guard position, maybe full mount, but in the guard of the guy. And that's what I was kind of hoping to see him do in this fight against Diego Ferreira. I predicted that both guys had the same path to victory by being on top and landing brutal ground and pound in the second or third round to get a finish. Grant Dawson had the opportunity to do that because he was on top every single round, getting minutes of control time every single round and landing ground and pound, including elbows from the top position every single round. But it wasn't enough. Either Carlos Diego Ferreira is fucking invincible, or Grant Dawson really, really lacks the fundamental ground and pound abilities that he so heavily relies on. I want to see you improve on that, Dawson. Your striking looked okay at times. We didn't really get to see a lot of it, so it's kind of hard to say, considering that's an area that he's usually struggled in a lot previously. I'm not confident in Grant Dawson's future in this division. I think he will get ranked again. I think he will beat 1 or 2 ranked fighters. I think he has the capability of chilling at like 13, 9 maybe, around that area. I don't see Grant Dawson ever beating someone ranked in that top 7, 8 people at all. I don't even know if I see him getting a fight with them because I feel like he'll probably lose to someone ranked around number 10, 9. So we'll see what happens next for him. Carlos Diego Ferreira is 40. I feel like he's probably going to retire. If not, he'll just be fighting another unranked guy, which fair enough, fun. He's a fun enough fighter, so I'm not really upset to see him again. But no real future for him necessarily in the UFC aside from just a bit of a paycheck and bettering his record, I guess, which is now 19-6, unfortunately. Grant Dawson is now 11-1 in the UFC, so great resume. Dude has done a lot. He's achieved a lot, but that doesn't mean that I am happy with what I saw. So please do better next time, Grant Dawson. Below that, literally going to skip over this one. Karol Rosa versus Ailin Perez. Ailin Perez gets it done. Karol Rosa outstruck her, but Ailin Perez gets the takedowns, lays on top. I apologize if you think this was a good fight. I'm pretty sure from what I saw of skipping through just a couple of moments, it didn't seem great. Seemed like, as I predicted the fight to go with how it went on the feet, Karol Rosa has the edge. Obviously, she was out on strikes. But being that to be fair, they're both big girls for the division. They've both fought, Ailin Perez has missed weight before at 135, and Karol Rosa has fought at 145 before. But I thought Ailin Perez was probably just going to have that grappling weight, which is a bit different. Not to say that she's got different weight, but like to know how to use your weight as a grappler is very different to just be someone who's fought at a higher weight class. So an example of that could be like a Jailton Almeida. Like that's someone who knows how to use their weight in grappling, which is a big difference. And Ailin Perez gets it done just based on a lot of top control. Like I said, didn't watch a lot of this. Watched bits of it. Seemed like it was pretty boring. I asked chat, shout out to Jake123 in my chat. I was like, look, tell me, is this what happened? And what I've just said now, based on my prediction of the fight, I was like, is this how it went? Is this basically what happened? Do I need to bother watching it? And he said, don't watch it. Don't watch it. It's not worth it. So I didn't. But the rest of the fights I watched, so I will continue to go through those. But yeah, Ailin Perez, again, gets another win. I think she's ranked number like 13 or something. And then she just beat, I think Karol Rosa was number 9 or 10 or something like that. So Ailin Perez is probably going to get a pretty high level bantamweight matchup next, to be honest. Good for her. She's got nothing going for her except the fact that she shakes her ass. That's like she's known for that because her fights don't have anything to be known for within them. So if that's what you want to be known for, be my guest. But I don't have any respect for it. I don't give a shit, to be honest. Ailin Perez gets a win. Karol Rosa loses. Yeah, who cares? Below that, Muin Gafarov pleasantly surprised me with a good performance over undefeated Reinier Nakamura, who has been a ridiculously good wrestler that's suddenly getting knockouts as he gets to his UFC career. But Gafarov just masterclassed him, to be honest. Dropped him in, I think, every single round, multiple times. There was like a minimum of like 4 or 5 knockdowns in this. It says 1 knockdown in the stats. There was at least 3. Minimum 3 knockdowns. Maybe they don't count it because like he hit the cage or because Reinier got back up to his feet. I'm not sure. But Muin clocked Nakamura multiple times and dropped him quite badly. And got a lot, it was a very, very much just an outclassing, to be honest. And this surprised me because when I predicted this, I said, I think my point was Muin Gafarov is 1-2 in the UFC. He's losing to fighters that are not that good. Reinier Nakamura is 9-0. He's carrying a lot of wrestling ability and coming off of great finishes in the road to UFC and a great finish in his UFC debut. I think he's going to have the ability to out-wrestle him and get it done. There was moments of wrestling from Reinier Nakamura for sure, but Gafarov was just way, way better in most areas. Even in the grappling, I still saw Gafarov being better than him. And that's kind of all there is to say about it. Gafarov is surprisingly good, better than I thought. He impressed me for sure tonight. Reinier Nakamura, a bit disappointing. We'll see where he goes next. But Gafarov is probably going to get a good fight next, to be honest. Don't know who, but it will probably be a decent one. So congratulations to him. Second from the bottom, so we had Ricky Turcios versus Bernardo Sapage. This one was very fun and pleasantly surprising. In the striking numbers, it's actually very even. Total strikes, Ricky Turcios is ahead, but the significant strikes are basically the same. The fact also needs to be considered that Bernardo Sapage was hitting way harder, okay? So all of the heavy strikes were coming from him. All of the volume strikes were coming from Turcios, but Turcios' face looked like a tomato that you had rolled down fucking 62 flights of stairs. Like, just rolling it off the edge of the stairs and just letting it just bonk, 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 and then going to the next floor. Bonk, 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 bonk. He just looked like a fucking beat up tomato, dude. His face was fucked up. And Sapage barely looked hurt. Barely. I don't even know if he had any blood on his face. I don't even know if he got cut, even though he literally got hit more times, technically, if you're not including significant strikes being the be all end all of how many times he were hit. So, pleasantly surprised, my friends. Bernardo Sapage got brutally knocked out by Vinicius Oliveira in his last fight in his UFC debut, and much like I said about Bogdan Guskov and Azamat Bekoev and Zachary Reese and Azamat Bekoev and Bogdan Guskov versus Billy Elekana, sometimes when you don't have a lot to go off besides the guy's regional career, it can be tough. So Ricky Turcios had a UFC career, which gave me something to go off. So I was like, yeah, even though Bernardo Sapage arguably has like better resume, aside from names, like just finishes and things like that. Turcios has, because he's got so many losses and things like that, but he's in the UFC losing these fights. So it's a bit different, but it didn't matter. I think this fight just leads us to have the question, just how good is Vinicius Oliveira? Like, fuck me. Granted, Bernardo Sapage actually did pretty well with Vinicius throughout that fight. I think he got finished in the third round as well. So he stayed in there with Vinicius for a long time. But he comes out here and just has power in his hands and good kicks as well, but brutally good boxing, which I didn't expect to see. I guess I didn't pay enough attention when he fought Vinicius Oliveira. And just was tagging Turcios with the heavier shots and the more well-planted shots at the better timing, with the better timing, throughout pretty much the entire fight. I believe I gave the first round to Ricky Turcios because he was ahead. He was hitting the body and the legs a lot early in the fight. But then that second and third round, the gap just got wider and wider and wider as it went on. And Sapage was way ahead on strikes by the end, to the point that it wasn't even really close. So congratulations to Bernardo Sapage. I'm sure he will get a decent unranked level guy now in the bantamweight division. He's still only got one. He's now 1-1 in the UFC, so he's not going to get some big name. But, you know, it's not going to be someone like, oh, well, this is a boring fight. He's not going to gain anything from winning this. It's going to be something to gain in the next fight, I think, for Bernardo Sapage, because Ricky Turcios was someone who didn't really have a lot to gain by beating. Then again, Ricky Turcios also didn't have a lot to gain by beating Bernardo Sapage, because they both had pretty similarly bad recent records, with Bernardo Sapage only having one fight to go off to make the statement that his record looked bad, but Ricky Turcios having several fights in a row, not looking the greatest. But congratulations to Bernardo Sapage, and I am pleasantly excited to see his next fight, for sure. And finally, Tagir Ulanbekov versus Clayton Carpenter. Dude, fair enough, Tagir. Fair enough. I picked Clayton Carpenter for this one. I thought he would be able to get it done just with the grappling ability and maybe the just undefeated record, not having, again, this is another one, very similar. It makes it hard to tell sometimes when the guys don't have a lot of experience. This was one in the other direction, though, where I took Clayton Carpenter's lack of UFC experience, because his small amount of UFC experience was very impressive. I got a bit too high on that, picked him based on thinking that his couple of wins were going to lead him to have great momentum and carry into this, and maybe Tagir, being a guy that's been in the UFC for a while, has a couple losses, wasn't going to have the same level of momentum behind him. and this is based almost exclusively on records and resumes and stuff. My pick on this fight was not very based on fight styles and stuff like that, because I just don't know that. I didn't know that much about Tagir. I knew a little bit about him. I knew like his size and his fight style and his ability and stuff like that. He's not a grappler per se, but he's not a striker per se. He's kind of a bit of a weird one, you know, maybe even a bit like an Umar, you could say, where good in both areas, to be honest, which is a bit different from some of the guys that come out of that Nurmagomedov school. But he just overall outstruck Clayton Carpenter. I think he won all 3 rounds. I think one judge might have given Clayton Carpenter a round, but I think I gave Tagir Bekoev all 3 rounds. Several takedowns on Clayton Carpenter, held him down for minutes at a time, I believe. Carpenter was way too happy to sit on his back. Granted, he had good ability to strike off of his back and throw up, I guess, I don't know what you would call anti-ground and pound, but an anti-ground and pound, you know, reverse ground and pound, sure. Shooting up at the guy. Doing pretty well at that, managing to isolate Tagir in a way that Tagir is not really in position to continue to advance his grappling position, where Tagir then has to fight to get out of having his head stuck in the guy's armpit or something while he's being elbowed in their side of the head and stuff like that. So I'm not necessarily that disappointed with Clayton Carpenter. I'm sure he'll do okay next time, but Tagir was a pleasant surprise. Even on the feet, was surprised with how good he looked as well. I guess that height advantage is a bit more, he plays a bit more into the game than I had previously anticipated it would, because he's 5'7" with 70 inches of reach, and Clayton Carpenter is 5'6", which that's not true. Tagir is definitely at least 2 inches taller than him, 168 centimeters to 170. There's no way that they're only 1 inch apart in height, but reach-wise, Tagir's got 4 inches on him, so there's a big difference there. But we'll see where Tagir goes next. What's Tagir's recent record looking like in terms of when did that loss come? Because he just lost to someone, right? It was a while ago. It was Tim Elliott. It was 2 years ago. But so he beat Nate Maness, beat Cody Durden. Now he's beat Clayton Carpenter. I think he's ranked. Yeah, Tagir's ranked still. So we're probably looking at a decently mid-ladder flyweight ranked matchup for Tagir Bekoev. So congratulations to him. So that is going to be all for today. Thank you guys very much for joining me for this breakdown of this card. This has been an incredibly long one. They always are, but this is probably the longest one I've done. We're talking, this is over an hour and 10 minutes. So I hope you guys did enjoy. If you stuck around for the whole thing, you're a fucking G, because this is long as shit. But I want to talk about every fight. I don't like to skip over stuff if I've still got things to talk about, and I don't want to skip over fights entirely. I want to talk about every fight, even if I barely saw it. So thank you guys for being here. I hope you did enjoy. Be sure to go check out the Fight Companion. You can go and watch all my live reaction to the majority of the card. I will give you a quick double check for how many of the fights I watched. So from Payton Talbott upwards. So I watched the Payton Talbott fight in the prelims, and then I watched Holland versus Dorita, Almeida versus Spivak, Prochazka versus Hill, blah, blah, co-main and main event as well. I did also watch Grant Dawson versus Carlos Diego Ferreira later on, because I wanted to catch up on that fight, because I thought it would be fun, and it was okay. And there's also a lot of end of stream sitting there double checking the fights, because I wanted to make sure I knew what I was talking about when I made this video. So if you want to go and check any of that stuff out, you can go have a look at the live stream Fight Companion. There will be timestamps for every fight that you're looking for. And yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy this breakdown. There will be some predictions and stuff to come out for the Adesanya versus Imavov card. That's going to be very fun. I'm very excited for that one. It's in 2 weeks' time. We got a gap this weekend, so make sure that you watch for all the content that will be coming during that gap, now that we don't have an event to break up the week with. There's going to be a lot of 2-week period, essentially, to make this event last with content. So thank you guys. I hope you did enjoy. Be sure to like, subscribe, throw on notifications so that you don't miss these live streams, or the live streams, as well as these videos when they come out. I'd love to have you in the streams, chat, come and get involved. We do research there. I literally sit there. I don't just sit and watch the fights. I jump onto Tapology. We go on the website. We're comparing people's records. I'm looking at fight statistics of striking numbers, and we're looking at old fights and reacting to other people's reactions as well, and watching, just searching up news on Google, whatever it is. There's plenty of shit to be done, more than just sitting here staring at my screen talking about the fights. So please come and join me. I'd love to have you all there. And yeah, man, I hope you guys did enjoy the event. I hope you enjoyed the breakdown. I hope you enjoy any videos that come from it. And thank you for being here. So I'll see you guys all in the next mixed martial arts video. Goodbye.